Hey man, welcome back.
Hey guys, in the last episode we've created the necessary passes and now it's time to composite them together. And man, I sound like a rapper. So let's dive right into this episode. Okay man, come closer, I want to show you something. Closer. Yeah. See them wireless nodes here waiting for you? Huh? Yeah, let's do this, man. Let's start by plugging in the render outputs into our wireless nodes. You can see that I've placed savers here as well. But you can ignore them for now. We use them later to do our breakouts in order to get some speed going on here. The area I want you to focus on now is right here. Grab the navigator and drag it over. Confusion template action going on here. This is our playground. This is where we're gonna compose our ground together. So in order to get started, we need to go back and grab our passes. We need the ground, the reflect gloss,
I see.
reflect extra, reflect,
Got it.
and the diffuse. These are all we need for now. So what you waiting for, man? Copy them and jump back to our playground. Here in this box, hit Ctrl-Shift-V to paste an instance. And bring them nodes close together. Make this a little bit bigger here, and I will hide the navigator for now. Place the ground diffuse here. And place the other three here. And just so that we have the same construction here. The first pass is the reflect gloss. The next one is the reflect extra. And the third is the reflect. We're gonna add the reflection passes first, and then we add the result onto our diffuse pass.
Keep listening.
Reflection passes are always added. So drop in a boolean. Set the operation to add. And alpha to do nothing. Just click in here and hit D. Now copy this boolean and paste it in 3 times. Here and here. So let's hook up our passes.
That reminds me, Captain Hook was here.
Really?
View them. Those two, the reflect gloss and reflect extra, become this. Then we add the reflect pass and we'll get something like this. Okay, let's jump to frame 0. It looks a little bit more interesting. Yeah. And now we add
What do we add, man?
and now we add it on top of our diffuse pass. Basically that's it. We combined our ground passes. Now this doesn't look too impressive yet.
What is this crap?
We're gonna change that later, after a beer or 2. At this stage, we're merely gonna add some BCs, brightness contrast, in order to be able to control the intensity of each reflect pass. Drop in a BC and repeat for all passes.
Hey, what the heck is a BC? Hey, man, you didn't listen, man? It's the brightness contrast, man. I see. Why doesn't he say so?
Hey, can you shut up? I need to focus.
Hey, what? He was asking, so what? He needs help. You need help.
Do I look like I care?
What the heck, let's add a BC for the diffuse pass as well. View the result. I'll show you what you can do now with the brightness contrast. By increasing or decreasing the gain, you can make the ground look more wetty or reflective.
More wetty, he said. Hey, mine is looking pretty good.
Shut up! I need to focus.
For now though, stick to the values I use. The first BC we set the gain to 0.43.
Aye.
For the reflect extra to 0.596.
Aye.
And for the reflect pass to 0.806.
Aye.
Let's assume we want the ground to look more wetty.
Yeah.
We can also reduce the gain of the ground diffuse. That will make the reflections pop out much more.
Or you just put some rum on it. What a stupid comment. Faggot.
Okay, let's leave this for now. Add a color correction right here.
Not there, man. There. I see.
And let's tweak this a little bit. Set the tint to 0.5102 and the strength to 0.1715. It's always a good idea to toggle on and off to compare your tweaks. Now our ground beauty is basically done.
Did you say beauty? Sounds like a girl.
I'm gonna go ahead and do some sort of slap comp just to see where this is going. Yeah, slap it, man. Slap it. Yeah, slap it, man. Slap it. Slap it, man. Grab a copy of our ground combined and bring it over here. Paste it in as an instance. We continue right here. As you can see, the box is named Moss Up. Now, if we take a closer look, come closer, man, come close. I felt I wanted to give it some more natural feel by adding some moss to it, some green. Now, a very simple way to add moss into those grooves here is by using a color correct node. So I append a color correction node, and of course, now we need a mask for those grooves. Drop in a bitmap mask. In our case, since we have a very good contrast here, it's very easy to derive a mask. Just reduce the high to 0.0184 and invert it. Now almost perfect, but we can bring this further. Yeah. I decided to use a filter.
What the heck is a filter?
Which I hook in between. And I set the filter type to noise. And crank it up to 10, it's the maximum. This will give the illusion of some tiny moss strands texture going on here. Let's hook this mask into our color correction and see what we can do here. I tweak the
Tweak the twig. Man, I think you need more rum.
Hey, show some respect, man.
Thank you. I tweak the tint and set it to 0.40261 and the strength to 0.86204. Yeah, I know it's very detailed, but now you can see this is getting a little bit greenish now, but we better increase this more. Swing over to the green channel.
Swing over.
And in the gain enter a value of 1.6. Okay, there's all kinds of moss growing on here.
All kinds.
And another color correction. Here it says darken. Here we want to do some sort of vignette action. So grab an ellipse mask, hook it in, and I'm gonna set the second viewer to show you the mask while I tweak it. I'm gonna focus on this area here. Try to adjust your mask about the size as mine. This time it doesn't have to be exactly the same, but yeah, you know. And then I set the softness of this thing to 0.167. Okay, at this point I have to tell you a very important thing. Closer, man.
Get out of the flippin' way.
So usually when you view a mask with the LUT, the lookup table activated, this is not what the mask actually really looks like. Masks always view without the lookup table. This is the true mask. This is how it looks and how it will affect. So make sure you check your masks without the LUT. So let's move on and tweak our color correction node here. I want to darken this just a little bit and bring this down to 0.34759. Oh, I forgot to hit the invert button. Damn. Something like this. Again, I compare. Yeah. Let's move on to the next box. Here we will add some rain later. Then we got some bonus material going on here. The next box says glow blend. Here I will use a glow to blend them colors together and make it look a little misty.
Oh, outside it's misty. Perhaps it means that something bad is going to happen.
Of course, it's way too strong here, so we adjust this and I set it to 23.3 and reduce the glow to 0.58. And as for the blend, I reduce it to 0.1, very low. And again, let's compare. And you might see what I meant by blending it together. So one thing I noticed now is that something is wrong with our alpha.
What's wrong, man?
If you check the values at the bottom, you can see that the alpha is at 1.1377. This is no good and must be fixed. Your alpha values should usually always range from 0 to 1, unless you're doing some sort of badass tricks. Now, problem solving time. This is very easy since we can go back node by node until we see where the problem occurs. As you can see at this point, the alpha is at 0.9. I already assumed something, which happened to me before, which I haven't figured out what causes the problem. And it's actually happening in our 3D material. Let's go to the diffuse renderer here. And if you check the values here again, already something is wrong. I've tried to find out the cause, went through every single node, spent days finding that bastard. But I couldn't. I only found a workaround. Yeah, but workarounds are good. So if you encounter this problem, what you can do is, in your material, you can counter set the alpha to 1.0001, and checking the alpha now should give you a nice and clean 1. So I checked a few frames just to make sure, and it seems consistent.
Wow, that's flipping awesome.
So for now we are good. Just make sure to always check your alpha values.
And you might want to do this with all the renderers.
It is utterly rude to speak with a full mouth.
Who cares?
If we combine all our passes, the alpha is still at 1. And here as well. And here actually something happens again. As you can see, the glow is set to also affect the alpha, but we don't want that. So we can simply uncheck affect alpha here and we're good again. Let's move on to the next box. The relight box, we take care of this later. The sculpt processed later, leaves later. This is all stuff for later. Then there is all kinds of bonus here. So I would say for this section we are done. Let's connect this to our output, and then we grab the all combined out node and move it over to the next section. Copy it in here. So in this section we are going to create, yes, depths of field. And the way we do this is awesome. We take our composited image, project it on a plane, and use the point position pass to displace that plane so that it recreates an exact 3D representation of the original scene when viewed through the camera. So since our composited image is put back into 3D space, then we can use true camera depths of field. Okay, that's what we're gonna do now. Yeah. So for that to work, we need the technical passes and a copy of the camera. A copy, not an instance, because we want to tweak a few things, but we don't want to touch our original camera. Time to move back to our loaders. Grab a copy of our camera. Move over to our TechPass renderer and temporarily paste in the camera. Then copy and paste an instance of the TechPass in and make sure it's still fat. Then select the camera and the TechPass, grab those and move them over. And here a little trick.
Confusion quick tip.
You can group the nodes and choose show tiles, so it will be much easier for you to grab them nodes from the distance, and you can move much faster in your flow. Once at your desired location, you can ungroup it again and we are good to go. So the tech passes come in here and the camera in here. Oh, important thing. Make sure to lock the camera to avoid accidental moves. This one though, we want to unlock since we have to set a few things. Great! In order to displace our image on a plane, what do we need? A plane.
I know, a plane.
So create a shape 3D and uncheck lock with hide. View the plane. And let's just adjust the aspect ratio, although it's not really necessary since the point position path will put the vertices on its right place, on its right position. Now hook in the ground.
Shiver in my timbers, everything is upside down. I must have had too much of this delicious...
Let's displace this thing. Of course, we will need a higher resolution. We're gonna set it to exact same resolution as the resolution of the image. 1920 by 720. Now we can go in and displace this plane using a displace 3D node. So hook in the tag passes and set the channel to position. Make sure you check absolute. If you view this thing now, bang! Of course, it looks distorted if you look at it like this, but if you look through the camera, it will look exactly the same. Now check this out. This is our original image and this is the displaced image. Awesome. Let's render this thing. Create a renderer. Let's make this big here. The renderer is still set to software renderer, so change this to OpenGL. Make sure texturing is set to source and the output, of course, 16-bit float. Now a very important thing. This image actually doesn't need filtering. Or at least not the strong filtering. Here in the output channel, I decided to uncheck super sampling completely. I felt I don't need super sampling because the image is already super sampled, and if I use super sampling it will blur the image and I don't want that. So I turned it off. Now the reason why we do all this now is because we want depth of field. So how do we do this? Depth of field is set in two nodes. The one is the renderer where we actually turn it on inside the accumulation effects. As soon as you turn it on, you can see that something is going on here. Doesn't look much like depth of field, but that's just because it's too strong and the quality is too low. So let's increase this to 128 and then we can set the amount or strength of the depth of field inside the renderer. So let's set the amount to 0.02. Then inside the camera, of course, it makes sense that we have the focus plane settings. In other words, where you want to focus at. But how can you know where the focus is at the moment? Super easy. If you go down to the control visibility, you can check plane of focus. And it will give you the focus plane right inside the viewport. Now you can easily adjust your focal point. Now it was super easy and look how fast this thing renders. For now, let's set it to 1.2 or perhaps 1.5. Let's focus on the center, about here. Okay. Now once we're done, we hook this into the wireless node and we bring this over to our next section. Paste it into here where it says ground DOF. And let's continue with our final touches. Add a color correction node. And now I'm gonna reduce the saturation in the shadows. Switch to shadows and then reduce the saturation to 0.638. This will give it a more natural feel. And again, let's compare. Good, let's move on. Create a merge node. And since I know that the light is coming from the top right, I wanted to add some sort of bloom here. And I'm gonna use a simple background tool for that. Switch the background tool to gradient. And now try to match it about the same as mine. For the color, I'm gonna make this bluish. Don't forget to swing over to the image tab and set the bit depth to 16-bit float. Hook it into our merge and set it to screen. One thing you want to consider, as you can see now, viewing the background tool with the lookup table activated looks wrong. Without the lookup table, it actually looks right, and this is what I want. What you could do is, either you append a gamut and change the color space to sRGB, or you can set the same settings inside the background tool's image tab. Open the source color space, switch to space, and check the remove curve and set the gamma space to sRGB. You can do either, but for me, I like to expose as much as possible.
Yeah, but leave your pants on, man.
So let's switch the apply mode of this merge to screen. And the next node I use is a color curve tool. Now you can see those curves here. But did you know that you can actually also use the spline editor to edit your curves? Yeah, the spline editor is not solely for animation, but for all kinds of curve related or control tools. With the color curve tool selected, if you check the RGB channels here, you will be presented with the same curves that you see over here, with the difference that you have all kinds of space.
I like space.
One thing you want to be careful though is the RGB alpha checkboxes are not linked, which means while in the tool curve window the alpha is checked, in the spline editor it's not. So be careful there. With the color curves, it's actually a little bit of fine tuning. So I'm gonna give you a screenshot and just make sure you will get exact the same values. You can use these two boxes here once you drop in a point to match or set the exact same values. So let's view our result. Not too shabby, but we can bring this even further. Add a color correction and set the tint to -0.3803, the strength to 0.3203, and go down to the master gain and set it to 0.5333. And for the master brightness, -0.0019. Very gentle with this one. So swing over to the shadows red channel and set the contrast to 1.019 and the green channel lift it up to 0.0019. In the blue channel, change the contrast to 1.019 and lift it up to 0.0019. Yeah, a lot of values going on here, but it will be even more. Now let's move to the midtones RGB channel, and I would crank up the gain to 4.1619. That's looking good. Now let's check our values, and you can see we have some badass minus values going on here. We can simply add a brightness contrast and check clip black. This will get rid of the minus values.
Oh, that easy.
Next, add a soft glow. Now this is not really soft at the moment, so let's reduce this by raising the threshold to 0.1 and bring the gain down to 0.142. Looking great, man.
Yeah, looking great.
So let's leave this and add another color correction. I will try reducing the gamma to 0.9 and the red gamma to 0.771. Compare it, and I think now it's time to make a preview and see how this thing looks, and I will be back in a second.
Okay, let's get our well-deserved beer.
Yeah. Snoring pig. You snoring pig.
Okay, back. I decided to render out a sequence because the I decided to render out a sequence because the alt drag preview will crash sometimes and then all frames are lost. If you render out a sequence, even if it crashes, you can simply continue from the point of where it crashed. Now, this render on my laptop took about 1.5 hours. Wait, man, don't be shocked. Okay, 1.5 hours is a lot of time, but you have to consider that we haven't done any breakouts. And we have two render sections. The first where we create all passes and the second one where we create the depths of field. Now, once we do the breakouts, this will render much faster. So, okay, enough talking. Now come closer, man. Closer. Check this out, man. Look at them stones, man.
Look at them stones.
Look at them details.
Look at them details.
Man, yeah, I like it. And now, to get some speed, it's time for the breakouts. Okay, time to finish this episode. Go back to our passes and render section. Here you can see all kinds of savers. We need to hook in all our render outputs into the savers. So since I have already created this scene before, the savers already contain a proper naming convention. So you can simply keep it or modify it. All up to you, man. Let me give you a brief explanation of the naming convention though. LBR is the abbreviation for LeBuck's ring, then all or 000 sometimes, which is usually the shot number. Then comes the department, comp in our case, for composition. Then the ground, followed by the pass type. Next we have the version number and last your name abbreviation. So to make things easy, you can even create the same folder structure that I used, so you can reuse all them savers without any hassle. Make sure to set process mode to full frames. And if you're using EXR, you can choose which channels will be saved or ignored. For our breakouts, we can simply take it as it is. It won't store channels which are not embedded anyway. So let's go through all them savers and make sure that they have the correct names. The first pass is the ground reflect gloss. Don't include the out ending here. Hit Ctrl P to activate it. And do this for the rest of them ground passes.
Oh man, I'm so bored. Yeah, boring.
How about making a song?
Oh yeah, that sounds like a good idea. Let's make a song.
YAARRRR, where are you, mateys? Come on, let's drink the rum. Or something else. Your mommy said,
Then once you're done, hit render and enjoy some time outside in nature.
Let's start a tale from way back when I was a little lover and the soul in the fine lass with theory came. Hey-ho-ho, I miss shouts, so you pay up. I had enough fun, scum and mud.
Okay guys, so after many hours of rendering, you should be having your breakouts. Bring in a loader for all them passes and load the corresponding image sequence. Then hook them into the wireless node, and finally don't forget to turn off them savers again. Okay, now it starts to get fun, because now we can work much faster, because Fusion doesn't have to render all this stuff here over and over again. Okay guys, if you have any problems getting your breakouts done, don't panic. Contact me and we will sort this out. My name is Vito, I'll see you soon. Until then, enjoy what you're doing.